The Assembly will hear a statement by His Excellency Stefan Löfven, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Sweden. By request, protocol to escort His Excellency. I have the great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Sweden, His Excellency Stefan Löfven. I invite him to address the General Assembly.
Mr. President and fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen, 60 years ago, UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld said these simple words, summarizing our task here today, and I quote, "The United Nations is an expression of our will to find a synthesis between the nation and the world, to serve the world by serving our nation, and to serve our nation by serving our world." We will never forget Dag Hammarskjöld's life, and we welcome a new resolution examining his death. But now, more than ever, we need to ensure that his idea of international solidarity lives on. The current refugee situation is a global crisis, a global responsibility, and now also a global crisis of responsibility. The UN system, all leaders of the world, need to come together to ensure that those fleeing from war and repression are treated in a safe, orderly, and dignified way. We should dramatically increase the number of resettlement places, expand legal avenues for migration, and base all our efforts on the principle of non-refoulement and the right to seek asylum. It is also extremely urgent that all countries of the European Union treat the people seeking refuge in the Union in a spirit of humanity, solidarity, and shared responsibility. Sweden will do its share. We are the largest per capita receiver of asylum seekers in Europe, and we are increasing our funding to UNHCR, which is in dire need of more resources. But this is something no country or no continent can tackle alone. It's time for us all to step up and solve this crisis. This is not only our task, it is our duty in serving of our nation and of our world. To solve this crisis, we also need to stop the horrors in Syria. Extrajudicial executions, sexual and gender violence, atrocities that may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity cannot be tolerated by our international community. Sweden supports the efforts to secure humanitarian assistance for the Syrian people. We stand behind Special Envoy Staffan de Mistura and his proposal to form working groups with Syrian participation to put into operation the Geneva Communique. To support this process, we want to see an international contact group comprising key international and regional actors, and time is of essence. The Security Council and its major power must shoulder their responsibility. The bloodbath must end. Meanwhile, other conflicts cannot be forgotten. A 7-year-old child in Gaza has already lived through 3 wars. Peace talks need to be resumed so that the State of Israel can live alongside a democratic, coherent, and viable Palestinian state. Sweden has recognized the State of Palestine. We want to see a more equal relationship to pave the way for the 2-state solutions that Israelis, Palestinians, and a broad international community view as the right path to peace. Sweden will also step up its efforts for peacekeeping and crisis management. We are contributing civilian personnel to missions in South Sudan, Afghanistan, Liberia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Middle East, and we have sent military personnel for the UN stabilization mission in Mali and the international coalition to combat ISIL. We stand ready to contribute to future UN missions and are continuing research on developed doctrines and methods for peacekeeping to share within the United Nations. Working to keep peace also means following through on our mutual promises on disarmament, to pursue legal, practical and technical solutions to fully rid our world of its remaining 16,000 nuclear weapons, to finally destroy what remains of other inhumane arms, such as biological and chemical weapons, to realize the Arms Trade Treaty, and to fight the spread of small arms and light weapons, including ammunition. If we sway from these goals, humanity will suffer for our faults. And if peace is more than absence of war, peace building is more than the direct prevention of military conflict. Lack of resources, rising sea levels, and natural disasters have already wreaked havoc for women and men living in vulnerable states. Climate change can work as a conflict multiplier, threatening peace as well as our chances of achieving all of our sustainable development goals. We need a course of action to create a low-carbon and climate-resilient world economy. We must protect land and ocean ecosystems. This is not a choice. It is a necessity for our survival. So the world must reach a fair, ambitious, and legally binding agreement in Paris in December, which over time keeps the global temperature, the heating, as far as possible below 2 degrees Celsius. Sweden will play its part, becoming one of the first fossil-free welfare nations in the world and having no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050. We will be strong financial supporters of the Green Climate Fund and international climate action to support adaptation and transfer of technology on a global scale. The coming decade will also see major investments in the schooling, higher education, and professional training of our young. We need fair and equal societies where the just contributions from those who have finance the giving of knowledge and power to those who have not. This is a foundation for peace that is too precious to neglect. And this is also, dear friends, connected to the potential of gender equality. The barring of women from power and public debate, from work and education, from their human right to decide over themselves, including their bodies, reproduction, and sexuality, all this is a global disgrace. It is time to once and for all get rid of structures that discriminate against and belittle people on whatever grounds. It is time to fully realize UN Security Council Resolution 1325, granting women their crucial role in peace and state building. It is time to see sexual violence as one of the most destructive weapons of all, and to fight it with all the force of the international community. And new times also demand new mindset. As several leaders of island countries have told me, we're not a small island nation. We are a large ocean state. To fully grasp the potential of the new world economy, we need to remove old colonial prejudice and false conceptions of large and small, north and south, east and west. We should welcome and enhance the transformation and expansion of the global economy through free and fair trade and create a global deal for decent work. while working also to free about 160 million child laborers and also end modern slavery. Sweden is taking concrete measures to maintain political support at the highest level of our common Agenda 2030, and we will continue to allocate 1% of our gross national income to official development assistance. For me, words that are not followed by actions are not worth being spoken. But the challenges for the international community also show the dire need for a strengthened and reformed United Nations. Sweden contributes resources, but we also want to contribute reforms. We want to make the United Nations more effective, transparent, and fit for purpose. We will work to strengthen cooperation between the United Nations and regional organizations, not least the African Union. Dear friends, in 2017 it will be 20 years since Sweden last took a seat on the Security Council. Over the years we have stood by those fighting for independence and dignity, and against repression, colonialism, apartheid and inequality. We now seek your confidence to champion the perspective of small and medium-sized states as a non-permanent member of the Security Council. We will strive tirelessly for a council that can respond swiftly to the security challenges of our time. A council that is more representative, transparent and effective. A reformed council must reflect the realities of today with adequate representation of Africa, Asia and Latin America, and we support also efforts to limit the use of the veto. And although we see distress, we also see hope. The agreement of the Iranian nuclear issue was indeed a victory for the idea of diplomacy and shared efforts creating shared progress. Our decision on the new Sustainable Development Goals will, if thoroughly implemented, have the chance to form another landmark in human history. And the upcoming climate summit in Paris will give us the opportunity to act late, but hopefully not too late. Sweden is fully committed to these tasks. We believe that international solidarity is the first and foremost foundation for our shared peace and prosperity. International cooperation is the only way to transform this solidarity into substantial change. 2015 must be the essential milestone for global development and for future generations. So let's create that milestone, friends, serving our nations, serving our world. Thank you for listening.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Sweden for the statement just made and I request protocol to escort His Excellency.